Well, hello, everybody. What is going on tonight? I am, of course, Ed Densel. My full name is Edward Densel. I'm not an Edwin. I'm an Edward. In fact, I had a conversation with some guy in the gym just a few months ago about that. I found out he was also an Ed, and I'm like, are you an Edwin or an Edward? He goes, I'm an Edward. I say, like, good. We can't trust those Edwin guys. Can't trust them. So I have a fantastic live show set up for all of you tonight. Not just some of you. All of you, yes. Yes, as Prince would say, even the ugly people. And, of course, I'm going to get into things that have been going on since we all got together in my life. And as you can see, I have a guaranteed, we're going to cover at least those three topics there at the top of the screen, or the title for this Unfound live episode. Tonight, I'll get to the disappearance. I'm going to do my best to analyze the still unsolved disappearance of Tony Sharpless. No, this is not planned. So, of course, this past Friday, it was Tanner Sharp. And now tonight, I'm going to look at Tony Sharpless. That was not planned that way. Then also, if you didn't hear, Rex Heuermann, the guy who we now know as the Gilgo Beach Killer, he has pled guilty. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about this woman who is missing for over 30 years, went missing as a 13-year-old, and then was found recently. I have some things to say about that as well, as you would imagine. And I have some other topics that I will most likely get to, but as I've said, the only guaranteed topics that will be covered are those in the title. I don't ever want to hype it up, Ed's going to talk about something. You see what I'm going to be talking about. I put it in the title, then I don't discuss it. That is certainly not the right thing to do. If you're going to tune in for something because you see it in the title, I better provide it, right? Of course. And I do have, of course, some other true crime items that I do want to discuss. As you are watching tonight, actually, I'm looking here at the screen. I had a different overlay. I had a brand new overlay planned for tonight's show. That's the part right here along the bottom. Something new, and then I figured out I didn't create it correctly, so it's going to have to wait. So I put this one in. Are you supporting the content at Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube? Of course, I talk about that every week. Hopefully that will be a reminder as you are watching tonight. Also, if you are new to this channel, if you've never heard of Unfound before, you're just kind of cruising around on a Monday night, and you're like, what the heck is this guy talking about? This long hair, what is he discussing? You can subscribe to the channel just by hitting the button right down here in the corner. Of course, you can go to Facebook and like and share the page. You can join the discussion group. Just do a search for that Unfound podcast discussion group. Also on Instagram, also on X, and we have the websites, theunfoundpodcast.com. And then my newest venture, it's still in the launching stage, very, 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 very early on. And that is missingpersonsconsulting.com. And in fact, that was what the overlay was supposed to be tonight, but I messed it up. And I thought it was working, and it didn't quite come out the way I wanted. So, like I said, we'll do that next week. Let's see who is in here, and then I will continue. Nephew Charles, what's going on? Delane, what's going on? It has been a while. Where you been, Delane? We miss you in the think tank as well. Hello, D. What's going on with you? Good to see you. Did you ever find out, by the way, D, you were supposed to tell me what was going on in your street? Remember last Thursday we did our show together, your show, and fire trucks and all ended up on your street. I never did hear what's going on with that. What was the issue? Hello, Charles, again. Hello, Lisa. What's going on with you? Simply, good to see you fishing. Glenn, hello from Michigan. Yeah, hello from Florida. And D, make sure all you hit thumbs up. That is true. And LaFord, what's going on with you? So, what has gone on since we all got together in my life? Just to give you an update on things that are going on, I continue to get up in the morning in the 160s, high 160s, 168, 169. Not cracked the 167s yet. Gonna have to get a little tighter on the eating and some things, but I have mastered 168 and 169 as far as my weight goes, which is nice. And I even have to say I've even maybe cheated a little bit. Like on Saturday, I went over to my brother Brian's, hour and a half, and I ate some potato chips, and I had some Twizzlers, and I had some chocolate milk, although that's just kind of cheating. And it still was all fine. And then I went to trivia and ate there. Still, my weight was fine. And then I had a couple cookies and some things, but it still continues to be all good. Still eating very healthy, getting in my 7,500 steps of walking every day. Did that this morning, first thing when I got up. So everything continues to be all good, I think, health-wise. Feeling good, sleeping well. Been getting a lot of sleep, 8-9 hours a night. Who would have thunk it from a year ago? So that is all good. Trivia. My Wednesday team won last Wednesday. It was beautiful. It was spectacular. It's been a while since the teams won when I've been there. Actually, when I was up to see my dad in late November, early December of this past year, they actually won without me. Yeah, that does wonders for the ego. But we ended up winning with me there, and we didn't even get the final question right. So nobody did. It was a weird one. And we were in first place going to the final question. Nobody got the final question. And we bet 0. And we ended up winning. It was spectacular. So happy for all of us. Of course, let's just admit I'm used to winning in trivia over all these years, on a team that was practically unbeatable. And so this team that I'm on now, not as used to winning as much. And I'm so happy for them. And really, I mean, am I contributing? Am I helping out? Yeah, of course. But it is certainly not all me. Certainly not. No way. No, I cannot say that. It is certainly a team effort. And I think they just needed one more piece of the puzzle to be a really good team. And I guess that was me. And of course, I bring not just a little knowledge, but some ideas on how to win playing the points game and all of that. So that was really fun last Wednesday. It was a little bit of a surprise. And then Saturday, the other team that I play on came in second. Could we have won? Maybe. But we'll take second. The thing is, there's only 3 of us. And we lost to a team that has like 12 people on it or something. So we have to take that into consideration. And in fact, even with the team that I play with on Wednesdays, we usually have maybe 5-6 people there. And, if we don't win, we're losing to teams like usually that have more people than we do. So it's, so we have to keep that in mind. But this past week, really, really good for trivia. Let's see who else is here. D says regarding the fire. Oh, yes, a fire to the south of me. So in a house or a brush fire. What was it, D? Then Friday, we had them right next door. So are these brush fires or lightning strikes, or, I mean, what's going on, D? Lisa, hello, D. Yeah, we had an entire strip mall burned down last week. Where I live, 3 restaurants are gone. I wonder if that was arson. Hello, DD. What's going on? You know, it's funny, DD. You have had that Wonder Woman picture for I think forever, right? Since I remember that picture that you use on here going back like to the beginning, right? Right, DD? I think so. I just see that. I'm like, oh, I know who that is. And D says, oh, no, ours was a house fire. It was a house fire. Okay, D. All right, gotcha. In other news, like I said, I went out to my brother Brian's on Saturday, and I was out there for about a little over 4 hours. We watched the Masters golf tournament for a while, but that trip actually had a couple of purposes. I got my new tires on my Mustang last, what was it? Was it Tuesday or Wednesday? I don't remember now. I think it was it Wednesday? But man, they make a big difference. If I didn't know it, if I were blindfolded, I would not even know that I was driving the same car. That's how big of a difference they make. Man, the tires that were on the car when I got it, man, they were worse than I thought. Oh my gosh. And now I have these tires on it, which are essentially the best tires you can buy for the car, period. And I got a deal on them. Thanks to Costco. I would certainly recommend Costco. I know everybody thinks it's a wholesaler and everything else. But if you want to get tires, I would recommend them. It was the tires, as you would probably imagine, because of the kind of car it is, the tires can be expensive. They're 19-inch tires and everything. I got such a deal on these tires, you would not even believe it. Like, I'm not exaggerating, like $100 less per tire. I don't know. If they would have been the regular price, I wouldn't have gotten them. But found this deal through Costco online, got them, and I even got new air pressure sensors in the inside of each tire at a discount as well. I thought I was going to be, let's just say, I thought I was going to have to end up spending, like, between tires and the work and everything, like maybe $1,600 to $1,700. Got it for way less than that. So if you ever need tires for your car and you are a Costco member, you should certainly consider that. Go online and look for the deals on their tire site, the Costco tire site. That's the way to do it. And then get them shipped to your local Costco. That's what I did. Never done that before, but it worked. But so I got to try those tires out driving on the I-4 brothers. They were fantastic. And then as soon as I get there, my brother comes out. He goes, all right, give me the keys. I'm going for a ride in this thing. And because he hasn't driven it yet. And so I just gave him the keys. I went inside and talked to his wife for Lauren for a little while. He was gone maybe 15 minutes. And yes, he almost got pulled over by a cop. Almost. But he was like, oh, wow, this car is fantastic. So he got to drive that around. I did not ride with him. I trusted him. Just go take it. And he knows how to drive a stick. He was a truck driver for however many years. And so he took it for a little ride out there in Polk City area. Like I said, 15, 20 minutes. It was fine. I'm sure he got on it quite a bit. And then I had a good time with him. So, yeah, Charlie, Uncle Brian got to drive the car. He loved it. And then watched some golf, 5 o'clock, came back, got back in time for trivia. So that was really awesome day. And I still got to do my working out and my writing on Saturday before I did all of that. So it was a very productive day on Saturday. And that was really about it. Not a lot of other eventful stuff going on. Tomorrow, I get the GPS and radio and everything replaced in the car because it's 15 years old. It's very dated. And so I'm getting that replaced with an Android CarPlay setup that replaces the radio, replaces GPS, everything. Of course, my phone and Bluetooth will be able to work on it because that has been one of the downsides of driving this car. Can't listen to my music on Spotify through my phone. So that is getting done tomorrow over at Best Buy. My appointment is for 11:30, so I'll be hanging out there. They said it should take about an hour and a half. And the good thing is when it's done, it will look stock. It goes right into the spot where the current screen is in the dash. There's some other ones you can get bigger, screens. And of course, they're going to sit on the outside, look very aftermarket. This is going to look exactly like stock. So they're going to take the dash out and just replace the unit. They have to do some other things. This car also has the buttons on the steering wheel for the radio and everything. All of that stuff is going to work just like I had buttons on the Hyundai as well. You just have to remember we're going back 15 years in technology for this. So this is my, my goal is to kind of get it updated to 2026 standards as much as I can. So I think that's going to be successful. So I'll be really excited about that because I've been riding around either listening to music through the phone speaker or using just the regular FM channels and everything. And I got to tell you, Tampa air radio is not very good. So that's going to be a big change tomorrow. D says, if I ever change it, you wouldn't know who I am. Of course I would, D, as long as you use your regular name, DD. Yeah, if you change your picture and your name on here, then I'm going to be like, I don't know who that is. So, yeah, but I just look, I know it's Wonder Woman, and I'm like, I know who that is. So that's fun. My Pittsburgh Pirates, by the way, when I had to turn off the game here, they were up 15-3 when I had to turn the TV off to do the show tonight. So I'm really happy about that. Pirates are in first place. So that has been pretty cool. They actually play the Tampa Bay Rays this weekend in Pittsburgh, though. If they were playing here, I would be going. But they're playing in Pittsburgh. So that's really been about it. Maybe one other thing. I think I'm finally ready to put myself out there as far as singing. And I am going to set up a SoundCloud site where I can post some of my singing, and then I can send some examples of my singing to some bands and some, people out there to start maybe doing some auditions and things. So, yeah, that is something that I'm going to be adding to my life. Of course, I've been singing, been practicing, been doing real well. My voice teacher, my singing teacher, and I, the last couple weeks, have been workshopping the song When You Close Your Eyes by Night Ranger. When you close your eyes, do you dream about me? When you close your eyes, do you dream about me? Came out in about 1985. She had never heard the song before. She loves it, though. And that is the song that we are workshopping. It doesn't get very high. If you some of you probably even know that song. I know a lot of you are like Gen Xers. You know that song. It doesn't get drastically high. It's not like Judas Priest, Rob Halford or anything. But the tough thing about it is the breathing. And when you get into the chorus, you have to breathe real quickly and you have to hold notes, sustain notes. And that is what makes that song tough. Because you listen to it, if you're into music, you're like, well, yeah, it's a dynamic song, but it doesn't go the high. The guy's not getting into his heavy, big-time head voice. It's not I Remember You, or it's not, Jeff Tate singing some song way up there. but it has its different challenges. And I think this is a good learning process for me. So that's the song we're working on the breathing, working on your vowels, and not, I like to tighten my throat up, which of course you can't do. That's my bad habit. So I think I'm ready to at least sing some songs, record parts of them, and see if I get any responses, see if anybody is interested in a, of course, I'm going to continue to get better, and I have to get better. We're going to see if anybody is interested in a 55-year-old long hair to front their rock band. We're going to find out very quickly. So LaFord says, awesome. Lisa, can't wait to hear you sing. Thanks. Lisa knows that song. Yeah, LaFord agrees. Joy, love that song. Can't wait to hear it, Jane. Hello, Jane. Good to see you. By the way, Jane by, was it Jefferson Airplane is a fantastic song. There's a Jefferson Starship. That is a fantastic song. Jane, just, of course, it's spelled differently, but that is a fantastic song. I'm guessing some of you have heard it. All right, let's get to the true crime portion of the show tonight. As you like, I will say it one more time. You see up there in the title, Toni Sharpless. I'm going to talk about her disappearance eventually. I want to look at the Gilgo Beach Killer and him pleading guilty. And then the story about this girl who went missing at 13 years old, discovered to be alive all these years later. I have some insights about that, some opinions on that, and you're probably going to guess none of it is good. We'll start here. We haven't done a poll in a while. I haven't told you about a particular poll, but I did take one for the disappearance of Tanner Sharp. And I asked people in the discussion group who put Tanner's car where it was found. Of course, it was found in a creek. I did a map video. I hope you watched it. And I don't exactly know what creek it was. I knew I was close to the location, surely, in the map video, but it's very, very split. Of the people who answered, 54% said Tanner put it there. 46% said someone else put it there. So it's essentially 50-50. Now, in the very, 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 very private think tank group, that the discussion group that I conduct on Sunday evenings, and to be a part of that, please sign up, patreon.com/Unfound podcast. You still have to sign up at the $12 a month level or above. Pretty much, it was almost a consensus. Maybe it was a consensus that Tanner was the person who put his car there. We certainly did look at the idea. Could it have been foul play? Could somebody else have found it and ditched it there? I don't think there are any facts to dispute that idea. But when people really were asked what their theories are, it was pretty much almost everybody that Tanner himself caused his own disappearance and put his car there. Just so you're thinking. I wonder if you were wondering what people in the think tank thought. And but in the discussion group, and I do have to say, over the years I've learned, the discussion group is much more likely to think foul play than the think tank is. It doesn't surprise me that it was a little closer to 50-50. And pardon me a minute. I'm going to shut my sliding glass door. I was enjoying some of the evening breeze out here, but I'm going to shut it because I know that the air conditioning here in my condo just turned on. So hold on one moment. Okay, shut the sliding glass door. It's this is that time of year. And especially now that I can open my sliding glass door again, the balcony is open, as they used to say on Siskel and Ebert. been leaving the sliding glass door open at night. I really don't have a fly problem here in this part of Florida. I really don't have an overt insect issue, at least not up here on the 8th floor. So I can leave the door open without this. I haven't put the screen door back in. I can just leave it open and it's really no big deal. So, yeah, it's been nice to leave that open now that the balcony is open again. But now that the warm air is getting here, now the air conditioning is turning on, I'm just going to shut the door. So, there you go. Back to the poll. Yes. Discussion group on Facebook. Once again, the question was, who put Tanner's car where it was found? And like I said, almost 50-50. It was, split down. And we didn't have a ton of people who answered, but the post was seen by 375 people. So there's that. Hello, Rockford. Rockford makes his first appearance tonight. Do people really see Tanner scraping off that VIN? I respect any answer, but I don't see him doing it. Okay. People, Rockford has asked all of you a question. You are more than happy. You are more than welcome to answer. Do you see Tanner scraping off that VIN? I do. Rockford, I'll answer your question. I do. He was a tricky guy. Like I said last night, Rockford, I think people underestimated him. I think they didn't see him for who he really was. He was a tricky guy. He lied to his grandmother. He lied to his family, took that money. Granted, he paid it back, went to his sisters, mooched, and everything else. And then, of course, lied. He said he was in Kansas. I think the reason he was able to do that is people just underestimated him. And so I'm not going to make the same mistake. I think it was totally within his. I think probably what happened, Rockford, is he thought he was going to be able to push that car into the creek. And of course, the car would totally be covered up, but it wasn't. And so he had to improvise. And so then he jumped back in the water and took the VIN off because that was the part that was visible. I think that is my reasoning. Hello, you. Is it you, Charlotte? You, Ed, and Char, or is that a T, Ed, and chat? Hello, you, whoever you are. Hello, Amy. And D agrees with Rockford. Okay, you can do that. I got no problem with it. So that is the poll for this week. In the discussion group, more not close to 50-50. In the think tank, not close to 50-50. In the discussion group, about evenly split 50-50. Moving on, another important Unfound item. Going to be doing my appearance on John Lordan's show on Wednesday. It's not live. We are going to do the recording. Of course, we still have part 2 of the coverage of the disappearance of Haydar Abu Shakra. Hope you didn't all forget about that so soon. But some things came up for John, but we're going to make that happen on Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I don't know how long that's going to go, probably an hour or something like that. So I will surely have to refresh my notes, make sure I am prepared for Wednesday, even though, like I said, it is not live. And then, of course, you can be expecting his coverage of Haydar's disappearance to come out. I'm guessing, of course, it's his show. We'll talk about whatever he wants to discuss. But I'm guessing that we are going to look at certainly how maybe even covering Tony Sharpless's disappearance tonight is a very good example of this, of how things just got out of control regarding the analysis of that disappearance. And maybe, of course, with Hadar's, there could have been some interference from some people who wanted things to go a certain way. And as I've stated, I think that the viewpoint that there was some bias and maybe even some racism, and that went into the viewing of the disappearance because of Hadar. Of course, he was an American citizen, but his ethnicity, his religion, etc., I think it made it very easily for certain people to portray his disappearance in a certain way for their own benefit. And John and I have talked about it. I'm guessing that's going to come out Wednesday. But once again, his show, I think that I've said enough to, on Unfound's own coverage for all of you to know that's what I think. And for all of you Patreon supporters who have not yet written that blog, I'm waiting until, of course, John's coverage comes out to complete that. And then I'll get to even expound on that idea, many ideas, even more. But it is coming, just holding off until his coverage comes out. And when I don't know the exact day, all I know is Wednesday. And of course, with John's coverage, you're also going to get to hear my very short phone call with the bail bondsman up there in Connecticut who had put the bond out for Hadar. And then, of course, he disappeared. And of course, that was covered in the episode. And you'll get to hear how that guy treated me. And after you hear what he had to say, I want to remind all of you, he never did call me back. And I did get permission, as you will hear. I did get permission. I told him that this call was being recorded. And so that's why we get to play it, recorded. Because you should know, here in Florida, it is a two-party state. I just can't call somebody and start recording that without their knowledge. So in his case, because I knew he wasn't going to give me permission, as soon as he picked up, he said, hello. And I said, this call is being recorded. And in fact, of course, it's been a while since I made that call. I said that, if you call back, it'll be recorded. He said he didn't care. Well, of course, he didn't call me back. And the lawyers never got back to me either. So that will be discussed surely with John as well. Some other things that are going on. I've done 2 interviews now for the series that I'm putting together. I keep talking about it. I've been talking about it for a while, and that is these Atlantic Ocean disappearances off the coast of Florida of, in particular, Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman. I interviewed 2 of Angela's sisters last week, not at the same time. One was Monday? And then I interviewed her other sister, Anita. When was it? Thursday or Friday of last week. Both did spectacular jobs. You will hear from both of them separately when the series starts. I'm going to be interviewing assistant Eric. That will be the first episode of the series. Interviewing him on Thursday. And so that will be first. Of course, now that I have, the way it's going to go is Eric's interview will be number 1. And then the interviews I did with Anita and Denise will be number 2 and 3. And then episode 4 is going to be interview also that I'm going to be doing this weekend. I'm going to interview Lisa Molyneux, sister or sister-in-law, in the family of Tony Sharpless. Of course, he went missing off the coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean in 1986. I'm having her back on to talk about Tony again. And, but in addition, Tony's brother is going to be part of the interview as well. So you're going to get a little bit of more complete coverage for Tony's disappearance. And then the episode after that will be my interview with the guy from the Coast Guard, the investigator there. And then it will finish up with Eric coming back on to do kind of a wrap up of everything. And so that will be done over the course of about 5 weeks, starting at the end of this month, probably taking us the whole way through the month of May. So just so you know, yeah, something different, always looking to do things a little differently. And I want to make sure that everybody understands what was going on there. And Eric has worked really hard on this with me just overseeing everything. So we're going to just do this a little bit differently than how we have done things in the past. Don't expect it to become the standard. We'll still do things the good old-fashioned way here. Of course, we'll give one Friday to a disappearance, however many episodes it takes. But this is a series just doing something a little different than usual that will take us into the summer. So, like I said, I'm appearing on John Lordan's show on Wednesday. I'm interviewing Eric for part 1 on Thursday. Then on Friday, I'm just doing a good old-fashioned interview. Don't want to talk about it quite yet. On Friday. And then this weekend, at some point, I will be interviewing Lisa and Tony Shark's brother. So a lot of recording going to be going on. Still very busy, doing a lot of different stuff regarding the podcast, even though I've started to work on some other disappearance work. So that is just, I know you like to hear everything that's going on here at Unfound behind the scenes. Well, those are some things that are coming up. D says, Ed, you will be happy with me. I'm down to 1 Coke a day. All right. Good for you, D. That stuff they put in there is no good for you. No good for you at all. And I know you're already a smoker, right? Right? So, yeah, D. And of course, and we want you around here for as long as possible, D. And of course, all that stuff's very expensive too. Very expensive. Hello. Well, hey, everybody. If you see that, Kelly is in here. Of course, Kelly, expert on the disappearance of Brian Schaefer. You can see Kelly right there coming in from Facebook. So good to see you tonight, Kelly. I hope you're doing well. And any Nick, sorry, Nick needs me. All right, D. No, not at all, D. Yeah, this week, and I vaped all weekend. Yeah, that's no good, D. That stuff is no good at all, D. I'm going to keep giving you a hard time about that. Yeah, good to see you, Kelly. I know you're very busy. I know that you've gotten some attention. Of course, Brian Schaefer's disappearance. We just passed, another anniversary. How many years is that now, Kelly? 16? He went missing on, believe it or not, April Fool's Day, right? So I know you've been doing some work, doing some 20 years. All right, 20 years. All right, thank you, Kelly. All right, 20 years. So April 1st, 2006, and now April 1st, 2026. Wow. Okay. Yeah, everybody look for Kelly. She's done some recent appearances, I think, on another podcast that I'm not going to mention because that's how I am. But Kelly's doing good work out there trying to figure out what happened to Brian Schaefer. And Kelly, I can remember going way, 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 way back to when I still lived in Madeira Beach, us talking about Brian's disappearance. Yeah, Stitching. Hey, Kelly, would you want to come on and talk about that case with me? Yeah, you should do that, Kelly. You should meet up on Facebook and maybe make that happen. Maybe you can friend each other. I'd love to see that happen between you two. That would be fantastic. you can take care of that yourselves. Delane, I still have my whiteboard with Angela's and Teresa's pictures, and noted I got stuck trying to get through to someone from the Coast Guard. Yeah, Delane. Well, Eric succeeded. He did succeed last year and has been in constant contact with a guy investigator with the Caleb King, and he works for the Coast Guard, and he has collected quite a bit of information. And in this series, Delane, for the first time, the names of the men who had that boat will be released in this series. And their names have never been made public before. It's been a big mystery all these years since 1984. We're finally prepared to release their names. So, yeah, we got Eric mainly broke through that, Delane. Don't feel bad about it. It's just the way it happens sometimes. But yeah, Eric did it, and it's going to be very interesting what you hear about these guys. Everybody's going to be very interested to hear about these guys. So yeah, Kelly, fantastic. Yeah, we have Thursdays. Excellent. Yes. Okay. So those are things that are going on with Unfound. As you can tell, a lot. I continue to say that Unfound is more than just a podcast. Of course, it's a think tank. It's been a media outlet. Of course, now I'm getting into some consultant work and a bunch of other things. And anytime, of course, any reporter, when you can release names that have never been known before, release facts that are important, not just trivial stuff, but actually information that means things, that's always what you're looking for as any kind of reporter, whether it has to do with crime or sports or whatever else. So Eric did a fantastic job in getting that all put together. Rockford, great to see you, Kelly. I've been following. Yeah, Rockford, very good. And yeah, great. Fantastic. Kelly, maybe be on Disha. That'll be pretty cool. I will be tuning in for that. All right, let's move into what we might call the non-Unfound stuff. And once again, still have to get to Toni Sharpless, the Gilgo Beach Killer, and this particular child being found. But I do have to give a Nancy Guthrie update. And the update is that there is no update. There is no new information at all. Zero. So we're 2.5 months? Let's just say 2.5 months into this. And it doesn't appear, at least publicly, that we're any further ahead than we were back in February. Now, at this point, it's really just people throwing theories around. Now, what was funny, though, is I was trying to find any new information, just doing a Google search like anybody else would do. And I saw, like, in the news section of Google, it said True Crime Podcaster has a theory regarding Nancy Guthrie. And I was like, well, I guess I'm a true crime podcaster. Are they talking about me? Of course, I was on Dr. T's show, just a week and a half ago. And that, of course, went very well. I thought we did really good coverage of Nancy's disappearance. But no, it wasn't that. And it never, how do I want to put this? It's weird to me how some people get like bigger media attention for saying nothing. And it was essentially a true crime podcaster, and I'm not going to say the person's name. I don't know this person. I've never heard of this person. Said, well, the reason that there are no witnesses, who have come forward is because the perps don't want to turn on each other. I think that's an exact quote of what this person said. And that got media attention. How about this? How about the reason that nobody's come forward, no witnesses have come forward, is because there are no witnesses except the guy that took Nancy. How about that? I don't know why so many people are convinced this had to be a group activity. I don't know why. There are no facts to support that. Could it be? Sure. Is it likely? I don't know. That so many people seem to be convinced that it had to be multiple people who took her. I don't know why. There is only one guy on the video. She was 84 years old. That doesn't seem like it would be a big deal for one guy to do. Especially if she was afraid. Of course, he had a gun, threatened her. She's going to go along with him probably pretty easy, even if she was not overtly physically able. You know, I haven't heard anything saying she couldn't walk, that she needed absolutely 100% needed a wheelchair or whatever to get around. I think that she could walk for short distances just fine. And I think if his car was just out in her driveway or somewhere close, he could get her there. In addition, seeing Nancy Guthrie in pictures, frankly, I think the average guy, at least the way that guy looked in the pictures, would have been able to carry her by himself. So why is it that this would get attention by somebody saying, well, no witnesses because the perps don't want to turn on each other? Well, certainly that's possible. And it very well may be that we overestimate that when we think of something that was absolutely done by multiple people. For example, the disappearances of Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman. Certainly there were multiple men who did that. I don't know. They kept their secret for years. I don't know. And more than that, we now know that more than just the perpetrators of their disappearances and the murders and everything, we know that the women in their lives knew it too. Never said anything. So, I don't know. I'm still, I have to tell you, I guess I'm in the minority here. I think it's very possible that one person did this. Now, have we had some disappearances where, the perpetrators were more than one person? Yes, like Tyler North's murder. His ex-wife and her boyfriend. Yeah. But on the other hand, Andrea Bowman, done by one person, although there maybe is reason to believe that Dennis Bowman's wife knew about it after the fact. Of course, Zoe Campos, Carlos Rodriguez, only person who knew that's ever been charged, at least that's ever been charged with anything. So why are we convinced it had to be multiple people for Nancy Guthrie? I don't know. So that's really the only thing. And then somebody else I saw did see something else, although I didn't put it in my notes here. I also saw some FBI person, not Julia Cowley, I don't think any of the people who are on her podcast, The Consult, but somebody maybe still with the FBI or maybe retired now. I'm not sure. Said something like, well, it had to be violent. There was blood drip. To me, that doesn't mean anything either. You can't say that. As the example that I've given from my own life, and I don't think my dad would be bothered by this. My dad's 89 years old. He's been taking blood pressure medication for years. Oh, I forget what it's called. Very popular. Very helpful to many people. The problem is it really thins your skin out. So even the slightest scratch can really bleed. And on top of that, the way it thins your blood, it makes it harder for the blood to clot. You have to be very, very careful. And it's not easy when your skin is thin like that. My mother had the same issue. But that's what that medication does. Of course, if you don't take it, your blood pressure, your blood pressure gets thick and your blood pressure goes up. And of course, that's dangerous and can cause heart attacks. But I can remember my dad she doesn't live across the street from it anymore, but she moved. But she had a dog with very sharp claws, and he loved that dog. My dad loves pets, loves animals. And, the dog scratched him, and he bled for a long time. It looked like somebody slashed him with a knife, but that's not what happened. So when you get back to Nancy Guthrie, if she was on that same kind of medication and the guy grabbed her just by the arm and twisted her arm or something that wouldn't do anything to my skin could cause her skin to rip and it would bleed. That doesn't mean at that point that guy was trying to hurt her. Yes, he was abducting her. Yes, he was forcing her to do something. That doesn't mean he was trying to hurt her. He just wanted her to go with him. So it doesn't mean because there was blood droplets found in her place, that doesn't mean anything that something violent happened. Yes, she got abducted. But at that point, now he might have eventually killed her. We don't know. But in the moment, I don't think he was trying to get her to bleed. There's no reason to believe that when you look at the average condition of an 84-year-old. It's something to consider. So I think we're at the point where people are just saying stupid stuff. Nothing's happening, but people know, it's been so long. They know if they say something and they say it to the right person, they'll get attention and everything. That is what is going on now. Whereas I'd like to think what I've done on here and then, of course, on Dr. Telesco's show almost 2 weeks ago, just trying to look at it and analyze it the best I can and not make any sensational statements, which I don't do anyway. Let's see, Delane. I remember that one case was considered closed by LE and the other was still open with nothing happening. Yeah, well, they're still missing, as you know, Delane. They're still missing the two women, Angela, and going back to Angela Westbury and Teresa Hickman. Yeah, most of the good work that has been done on this was by the Coast Guard, Delane. Frankly, Jacksonville, that county over there and everything, not helpful. D, nothing at all, and we'll watch all the true crimes out there. Yeah, bingo, Amy says. D says, JLR, Dad's gone live, or 857 Tucson. I'm not sure what that means, D. Saturday, hello, hey, Taylor, also known as D. I call her mama. How are you doing tonight? All right, there you go, D. Ed, keep in mind, I told you the flowers he pulled up was on top of the blood. Yeah, maybe he's trying to cover it up or something. I don't know. I just don't find the blood to be, sure. If she had some sort of blood clot problem, what's it called? Hemophilia? That drug can cause a version of hemophilia. Yeah, it can be dangerous. Yeah. But it doesn't, overtly worry me. What really worries me, although it hasn't kept me up at night, is that she's missing. I don't need to see blood, no blood to be concerned. It's been 2.5 months. I'm concerned whether there was blood or not. And as we know, when it comes to disappearances, forensics really don't play a role in investigations anyway. Yes, forensics play a role once a body has been found or bones have been found, certainly. But until that point, not helpful. Not helpful, usually. Hello, Rose. Sorry, I just saw the notification. I'm the only one that's not allowed to be late. Rose, totally fine. Yes, Ed, I see my baby girl is in here watching. Yes, okay. Very good. So that's all I have to say about Nancy Guthrie. There's no information. I know some of you maybe are tuning in every day and following it. Of course, I hope she's found alive. Of course, tonight. Let's do it tonight. Let's get it done. Tomorrow at the latest. But there's just nothing new. And people making a lot of stupid statements out there. A lot of them. Moving on, let's talk about the Gilgo Beach Killer. He pled guilty for 7 murders. His name is Rex Heuermann, Heuermann. Talked about it when he was finally caught. In fact, I might have even talked about these murders before he was identified, maybe really going way back into the live show history. I'm not sure that he fits the profile. I know there was a very general profile out there where he's white and he's between this age and everything. I don't know. Did he live kind of in the area where the bodies were found? I guess. He was married, he had children and everything. And it does seem that he was murdering these women while his wife and family were out of town. So they'd go out of town and he would go do his business, meeting women. I think it was on Craigslist, prostitutes on Craigslist and elsewhere. They'd meet up with him. He would kill them. And, in trying to figure out how he got caught, to me, it's still a little vague. What they keep saying, you go to any, I know there's been a lot of people who got deep into this, and I'm not one of those people. But just doing the best I could do for the live show tonight, what keeps getting brought up over and over was that he drove this green, like a pickup called an Avalanche. And there was a witness or somebody who said that, yeah, she got into this truck. It was a green Avalanche. And of course, then Rex drove one. And he was even still driving it when he got caught. I don't know. But to me, that doesn't quite solve the problem, does it? Because there are a lot of people, both men and women, driving that kind of vehicle. So I'm not sure then, what led them to him that then led them to say, oh, he drives a green pickup truck. A little unclear to me. I'm guessing the answer is out there somewhere. But the only thing I could deduce in studying up for tonight was that, did they know maybe that this Rex guy, did he have a reputation? Did they know that he was a guy who frequented sex workers in the area? And they kind of put it together that way. That they knew, I guess my thinking is, all right, they know that somebody is meeting these women probably on Craigslist. And so they're like, well, maybe we need to find out who some of these women are and start asking them some questions. And through that, of course, this green pickup was identified. And then they started maybe looking at, did they know maybe were they letting guys get away with frequenting these women in an effort just to see what vehicles these guys were driving? Maybe. Can't blame them for that. I think that's a decent police tactic. And kind of going undercover or something. And then they noticed, oh, there's that green pickup truck. And of course, the license plate, they find out that Rex Heuermann drives it. They start looking into him. Oh, he fits this demographic. He fits that demographic. I'm thinking that's how they did it. But I haven't seen that written anywhere. Now, his sentencing is until June. New York, even though the death penalty maybe is still on the books in New York, I don't think they use it anymore. They just don't do that in that state, just like several states are like that now. Here in Florida, we have it. We'll just execute people, no problem. Although I think we have retired the electric chair that wasn't named Old Sparky or something like that for years. But sentencing isn't till June. I don't think it's going to be a big mystery that he's going to be put away for the rest of his life. But like I said, I don't think in the state of New York they execute anybody anymore. If somebody knows differently, please post it in the comments. So I don't think there's a lot of mystery here. What I also note is that you could see over the years, looking back, although I didn't do that preparing for tonight, but having read about it quite a bit over the years, because we have to remember these murders go back several years, that there was an idea, well, could the guy be a police officer? Is that how he's getting away with it? He knows the police tactics. He knows what police do, and he's able to avoid. We now know that that wasn't true. And, of course, he was an architect, just like George Costanza on Seinfeld. He was an architect, and maybe many of you have seen that video that he did that made it. It's still up here, I think, on YouTube somewhere, where he got featured just a year or two before he was brought into custody. He was interviewed for some video magazine or something, and he was talking about his work and how he goes about it and everything. And here's what I know. Nobody watched that video and knew they were looking at a serial killer. I want you all to really, really, really remember that. We hear all these things. We have too many people out there thinking they know they can identify liars. They can know when they're in the company of a killer. They think they have this sixth sense or whatever you want to call it. Everything else, it doesn't exist. Nobody watched that video and said, you know what? That guy might be the Gilgo Beach Killer. Nobody. That should tell you something. But it's good that he was caught. I'm certainly open to the idea that there are more victims out there. They just haven't pinned them to him yet. And in fact, you might remember a few years ago after he had been caught, there was, an idea going around there. Could Rex Heuermann have been the killer of Jesse Foster in Las Vegas? Because he did make trips to Vegas, maybe for conventions. You can't rule that out. If he went out there without his family, by himself, or just going out there with other architects from the New York area or whatever, he would be on his own, leave him up to his own devices. Maybe. I doubt it regarding Jesse Foster. She had enough horrible people around her already. But I am open to the idea that he could have killed other women who just haven't been identified yet. Maybe in the New York area or maybe other places that he went. But it was what they were, of course, able to figure out, that he would go about this killing when his family wasn't around. I read about him. He was a mama's boy. I don't take as much of an interest into the psychology of serial killers and everything as much as other people do. I know quite a bit about the Zodiac Killer, but why he was doing that and everything, not overtly interesting to me. I'm more interested in looking at the facts and trying to figure out who most likely did it. That's just the way I operate. And I think that's the way I try to operate with the disappearances as well. Some questions. Was it luck that solved these murders? It doesn't sound like it. But on the other hand, should these murders have been solved sooner? Probably. It's like I've said many times. If there were some guy out there killing, female college professors, everything would be on lockdown. If there's some serial killer killing some female professor at Harvard, then at Yale, then at Brown, at Colgate, going through the Ivy League schools or something like that. Everything would be on lockdown. But because these women were who they were and what they were doing, this probably went on longer than it should have had they been up on it. I'm not saying they weren't trying to solve it. I think what I'm saying is that in looking now, all the information we know that he was using a burner phone, but he was still carrying his regular phone along with him. He didn't do anything to hide his DNA. Of course, he was using his own vehicle to pick up these women. He really wasn't doing anything except maybe the burner phone to keep his identity secret. And it still took all this time to catch him. I think that reflects very poorly on the investigators. I give them all the credit for not giving up. But let's just call it what it is. He was not a serial killer who was trying to hide his identity overtly. Not at all. And it took this long. So when we think about other murders where killers have gone to overt lengths to hide their identity, it should be no wonder that maybe we never catch any of them. None of them. So, at least with the Zodiac Killer, at least the two, the couple, one he killed, the guy survived out at that lake, at least he wore a mask for that one. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem that Rex Suerman did even thought of doing anything like that. D, you're posting here. I was looking for the older cases. Okay, D, you do that. Or missing older women. Okay, we can do that. And D agrees with me. D, lighting up the comment section tonight. Thank you, D. So I have it written here, Green Avalanche. Lots of people have that vehicle. An idea. I think we also have to keep in mind that I don't know overtly about this, but I guess we have to be open to the idea that there were prostitutes he didn't kill. I'd like to, that might be interesting to me to hear a little bit more about that. And then try to, even though I just said I'm not interested in the psychology of it, I could say, well, surely all of these women that he killed, those were not the only prostitutes that he met. Probably not. So why did he let the other ones live? That might be interesting to hear about, something about that. I don't know. D, well, see, I'm the only one talking. Yeah, well, everybody else is allowed to talk. Everybody's just so enthralled with what I'm saying, they can't type or something. Anything else? And like I said, there's certainly more victims. I could certainly feel pretty good. It's bad, but I feel pretty good about saying there probably are more victims out there, and he's not going to tell them who they are. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Mary, for checking in. But certainly worth a look. Like I said, Las Vegas. Did he go on any other trips by himself? Any other conventions? To Chicago? Of course, Orlando, Florida. Here in Florida, that's a big convention area. If he went on any trips, business trips, I think that those ideas cannot be ruled out. That he killed women elsewhere. But in June, we'll find out the sentencing. Like I said, there doesn't seem to be any mystery to this. If it were Florida, it would be a big mystery. Is he going to get the gas chamber, whatever we're doing here now, or not? In New York, not as big a mystery. All right, let's move on to this. I'm going to save Toni Sharpless for last. I want to talk about this Arizona girl who vanished when she was 13, and it made national news on how she is still alive. Of course, she's an adult. She's married, has kids, and she is living in Springfield, Missouri. I have to talk about this. And this probably might have been on my agenda. Maybe I just in passing mentioned it last week, but I want to get way deeper into it this week. Sometimes I forget what I talk about from week to week. An Arizona girl who vanished at 13 and was long feared abducted has been found alive. She was not abducted. Now living a quiet life as a married mother of 3 working for a private investigations company. Yes, really. As I told Glenn, if you're still in here, I think it was you who emailed me. And, and what did I say? You can't make this up. Christina Tina Marie Planty, now 45, is living in Springfield, Missouri, more than 1,100 miles from where she disappeared in 1994, where she built a new life after leaving home as a teenager. Mary says, I'm always interested in the people who show up alive. Well, me too, but there are some reasons to be critical of this, Amy. Hello, Mary. Hello, Amy. Listen, while completing tasks, all right, you do your tasks, Amy. The outlet reported Planty married as a teen at 17, by the way. So 4 years after she went missing, she got married. Raised 3 sons and later earned a psychology degree from Missouri State University. She now works in a supervisory role for a Springfield-based firm that investigates insurance fraud. Her last name is now Hollon, Hollon. She told the Daily Mail, her husband, the husband talking, told the Daily Mail that his wife has been processing the renewed attention after being identified and said she had shared her story with him before they were married in 1998, though he declined to discuss the details publicly. So he's known since 1998 for 28 years. Going to come back to this. Authorities say Planty has been reluctant to provide specifics about how she disappeared. Glenn, yes, that was me. I definitely got a kick out of her profession. Yeah, me too. Gilgo County Sheriff's Office, that's in Arizona, told the Daily Mail that Planty has not explained who she was with when she left or how she managed to get out of town. He said she acknowledged running away and indicated she had contact with another family member at the time. Well, that's what this article says. Now, I've read elsewhere that this was not an abduction at all. And it seems that law enforcement at the time in 1994 knew this. This was what we would call a custodial abduction, in that her parents were divorced or separated or not living together anymore. I don't know if they were ever married. I don't know. But she was living with her father, and she didn't want to do that anymore. So what did she do? According to articles elsewhere, she made arrangements to meet up with her mother, who was not supposed to be seeing her. The story is that Christina was going somewhere to walk to some barn where her horse was. I guess she had a horse. Must be nice. And during the course of this walk, she had already arranged to meet with her mother in Arizona, somewhere along this route. And the two went to the local airport. Was it in Phoenix? Was it in Tucson? And got on a plane and left the area. Now, what is unclear is where she went. Did they go to another country, or did they go to someplace else in the United States? I don't know. That has not been said anywhere. All we know is eventually she met this Holland guy, And seemingly they met in Missouri because she ended up going to college at Missouri State. And it does seem that he is from that area. So one way or the other, 4 years later, after she went missing, she was in the state of Missouri, met this guy. He's 4 years older than she is. He was 21. She was 17. They got married, and they're still married to this day. And in that way, I'm happy for them. All right. I'm not the marrying type, as all of you know. But if you're going to get married, I guess you might as well stay married, even if you're a missing person. But then somehow, of course, recently, this all came to a head. But it seems to me that it was fairly obvious back in 1994 what happened. That it wasn't that she was walking down the street and some stranger picked her up. That did not happen. Instead, what happened is, as I keep telling all of you and anybody else who will listen, most of child disappearances, things like, are exactly this. These people who have you believing that this is all sex trafficking are lying to you, or they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. This is the way a majority of child disappearances, abductions, with my little bunny ears up, abductions happen. It's usually by a parent. Now, granted, maybe some of these parents are involved in, horrible activities with children and everything, but never get the idea that there are thousands of kidnappers cruising the United States looking for children by themselves. That is not going on. And in fact, if we want to use Christina's disappearance as an example, and other times I've talked about this on the live show, when police say, we found 30 missing kids, this is the kind of missing kid they're talking about. One who got abducted by the other parent, or who didn't want to live with one parent and got together with the other parent, say, hey, I don't want to live with dad anymore. Come get me. Police don't tell you that because, well, let's just admit it. It's not quite as sexy. It's not quite as sexy to say, yeah, we're going out there and we're taking 30 kids away from their one parent and bringing them back to the other parent who actually has legal authority over this child. That's just not as quite as sexy. But when they say 30 runaway kids, or kids who might have been taken into sex trafficking or something, well, then that gets headlines. I'm going to keep telling you this. I know this flies in the face of what you may hear elsewhere and read elsewhere, other podcasts and everything else. I'm telling you, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. They're way more the stereotypical really child disappearances like Leanne Hosberg. Took off to parts unknown. Might have gotten lured by an older person or something like that. But these kids are runaways, and a lot of them do not end up in sex trafficking. A lot of them come home. A lot of them find somehow to live. Some of them die. It's very sad. But the sex trafficking angle is totally overblown. Because here's what I know. If she goes missing today in 2026, same circumstances, 13 years old, you're going to have a bunch of people. Yeah, she got abducted by some sex trafficker. No, she did not. She got taken by her mother because she didn't want to be with her father anymore. Now, the question, of course, the big issue is, well, where is her mother now? Doesn't say. And so when it comes to this part about, the husband said he declined to discuss the details publicly. I guess that's what he means. And then when the own missing woman, girl, now woman, says she's been reluctant to provide specifics about how she disappeared, well, why do you think? I hate all of this. The fact is, this is a girl who was not in danger. Now, granted, this should not have happened, but she was not in danger. She knew what she was doing. I don't know what kind of person her mother is. Obviously, not that great a person to do this. But I'm not saying her mother was violent or anything, but this girl was not in danger. But still, she kept her identity secret for all these years. And who knows how many woman and man hours Gila County and other people put into trying to find her. And here, she's getting married at 17. She's going to school. She's having children. She's getting a job. Her husband has a job. They're married in Missouri. And a bunch of people in Arizona are looking for her. I hate it. These people who do this should not be allowed to get away with it. To perpetrate this ruse, this scheme on the citizens of any state, the taxpayers, law enforcement, whoever else. I hate it. I do not. I'm happy. Hey, am I happy that she's alive? Of course. I don't think, you don't, I'm not going to take it, I guess, that far. But, so when do the residents of Gila County get their tax dollars back for all of this? I have zero sympathy in these situations. And as I have written in my notes, language matters. She was not abducted. She chose to go. She wanted to go. She was not kidnapped. When she met up with her mother that day, they knew exactly what was going on. It was known to be a custody. She went willingly. It was known to be a custody issue. And when she turned 18 and she was an adult, she continued to take part in the scheme. I want all of you to remember that. This, to me, this makes her a bad person. Happy that she's alive. Bad person. Well, you don't know what it's like. I know what it's like enough to know that she wasn't in any danger. If she had come forward, is she really saying if she had come forward and said, after she was already married and in a different state, she could have come forward and said, yeah, I'm the girl that went missing all these years ago, like when she was 23 or something, she couldn't have done that? And here she is, even today, still protecting her mother. When what her mother did was wrong. It's not being a very good role model. Like I said, zero sympathy. Unfortunately, given that this case has gotten national attention outside the realms of true crime, this teaches the general public the wrong lesson. This is the other bad part about this. Other than all of those people getting fooled and everything, it teaches the general public, who should take more of an interest in the disappearances, the wrong. This only makes the general public pay attention to disappearances less. Because what do they say? It only induces unlawful parents to do more of this. Of course, you will go to jail, you will not go to jail, and you will not be billed. But for the general public, what's it tell them? Oh, these kids, they're probably out there. They're probably fine. Not realizing that laws have been broken. And it does, remember, I guess what I'm saying is this. Just because I don't think most of this is sex trafficking doesn't mean I think this is good. But what it does teach the general public is, It's no big deal if kids go missing and then later they end up as adults and, oh, this is what goes on. Oh, I guess it's okay. Oh, some kid's missing in the news. Probably just got, probably is going to end up being adult. He or she's probably going to be fine. So when you start wondering about why flyers and, and everything else, media attention doesn't seem to do as good a job as everybody thinks they should do, you might want to look at Christina Planty's disappearance as why. She and her husband and her mother should be billed for all the work that has been put in over the years. Absolutely 100%. This is a scheme. This is fraud, man. It's fraud. It's essentially like they took taxpayer dollars. As you can see, I'm a little bit upset about this. It undermines the good work that some of us are trying to do out here. For sure. I don't know what story she told her husband back when she was 17 and he was 21. She could have told him anything. Who knows? But here's what I know. I can assure all of you. If I meet some woman and she tells me, I went missing and I'm a missing person, whether I'm still doing Unfound or not, guess what I'm doing? Guess what I'm doing? I think you know. So that's this. So I know that you probably have seen this story well before. You've heard about this story. It's been out for at least a few weeks now. And I'm guessing you were happy for her, but I want all of you to understand there is a huge downside to this happening. For some woman just to be out there, like Mary Jane Van Gelder, same thing. Adam Turner did fantastic work up there in Ohio. Fantastic work. Happy for him. But I also know that Adam Turner probably could have been giving attention to other things as a police officer. If Mary Jane Van Gelder, ran out of her life and then eventually would have told somebody where she was. Now, I realized she was still married and had kids. Well, I'm sorry, but you're the one who chose to do that. I find these people to be overtly selfish. Now, you may say, well, Ed, there have been some unfound people who were found alive. That's true. That's true. The only break I can give them is, Brandon Roberts, as an example. The stipulation I would say there is, well, he was an addict. He's homeless. And it wasn't that long, but still, yes. I'm glad they're alive. But I do think something should be done about this. They're not subhuman, D. I wouldn't say they're subhuman, D. But like I said, I'm happy that some of these people ended up being alive. But there is the other side of it. And we can't forget that. And these people like Robert Hoagland, people looking for him, his wife looking for him, his kids, at least one of his sons, wondering where he went, just took off. 9 years, didn't know where he was, died. Didn't find out till he was dead. All the work and money that gets put into all of these cases, and the people are still alive, and they know that people are looking for him, and they don't do anything. Bad. All right, let's get to Toni Sharpless. Hope a half hour. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it in a half hour. We'll see. Toni Sharpless. This disappearance, it is a humdinger, but I think this is a perfect example of what happens when everybody involved doesn't know what the heck they are doing. I know I say that quite a bit, but I'll show you. I'm going to tell you what I mean. And this is a disappearance kind of like Richard Imbo and Richard Petrone and Daniel Imbo. And coincidentally, it even happened in the same area of the United States, weirdly. Toni Sharpless was last seen in Gladwine, Pennsylvania at 4:45 a.m. on August 23rd of 2009. She left her home in West Brandywine Township to go out with a friend, Crystal Johns, that night. They originally went to the Ice nightclub, then to a house party in the 1300 block of Bow Barn Drive, which was it was an NBA player party. At 3 a.m., Sharpless sent a text message to her 12-year-old daughter. She later caused a disturbance at the party when she got angry with another guest and poured a bottle of champagne on the floor. She and her friend Crystal were asked to leave. Both women had been drinking alcohol that evening, something Sharpless was not supposed to do because of the medication she was taking. And Sharpless had reportedly been awake for approximately 36 hours, and not to mention she had a DUI from the year before. She was angry and crying when she left the party with Crystal Johns. They had only driven a few blocks when they got into an argument because Johns didn't believe Sharpless was sober enough to drive. And in fact, neither of them probably were sober enough to drive. Sharpless stopped the car and demanded her friend get out. So Johns exited the vehicle and then Sharpless drove away. I mean, that's what I'd do if somebody was drinking. If I was in a car with somebody drinking and driving, I'd be like, I don't care where we are. Let me out. Let me out, or let me drive, of course. Johns initially assumed that Toni Sharpless would return. That didn't happen. When she didn't come back, Johns had a relative come. She had her phone and come and pick her up instead. Sharpless was never heard from again. She and her car are still missing. Sharpless was driving a black four-door 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix GT with tinted windows and the Pennsylvania license plate DND 7772 at the time of her disappearance. It has never been located. A photo of a similar vehicle is posted with this case summary. That is what was written on the Charlie Project. There is a long dissertation on Toni's disappearance on Wikipedia if you'd like to check that out. Now, you should know that they of course, got her phone information. Doesn't seem that she called or texted to anybody after dropping off Crystal Johns. And the phone went dead approximately an hour later, although it is unclear where exactly that ping was, at least in the information that I read. Also, allegedly, about 2 weeks later in Camden, New Jersey, a license plate reader allegedly read her license plate as it went past. You know how those things work. We now know how all that stuff works. Might have been kind of newer in 2009, but of course these days, these license plate readers are out there. And allegedly, 2 weeks later, a license plate reader picked up her license plate, allegedly, but I'm going to come back to that. There were extensive interviews done with everybody at the party last night, including the NBA player, including the woman who was with her, this Crystal Johns. And seemingly, police believe all of their stories, even though there were, there was rumors out there. Well, could she have turned around and gone back to the party? Could she have gone down the street and gotten carjacked? But everybody who saw her that night was interviewed, and it doesn't seem that the police are suspicious of any of them. But later, some years later, a letter was sent somewhere to the family or the police or somebody saying that Toni did get pulled over. She got in a fight with a Camden police officer, And during the course of this tussle altercation, Tony died, and the police department covered it up. And in this letter, the reason that this person knows this is allegedly this person was involved in getting rid of Tony's car, this Pontiac Grand Prix. And to offer proof, this person detailed the last so many numbers of the VIN and Tony's cell phone number. So there are some people who actually believe the story. I'll come back to that. We got 25 minutes to go. And like I said, there was a long Wikipedia article, much longer than the Charlie Project, much longer than the page on the Charlie Project. Also, you should know, years ago, back when I still lived in Madeira Beach, this was even before my mother died, so it had to have been 2018 or before that, there was a PI hired by Tony's family. I got to speak to this private investigator, and maybe it is no surprise at all that she did not particularly impress me. I wanted to cover Tony's disappearance way back then. I reached this private investigator, but after talking to her, even in the, it's just a beginner at the time, probably when I spoke to her 2017, 2018, even at the time, I said, there's no way I can have this woman on the podcast. There's just no way. And of course, this, among many other interactions and things, continues to form my opinion on private investigators. Well, the private investigator came up with the idea that Tony got sex trafficked. I, of course, will come back to that in my analysis as well. I want to remind you then again that Tony had a DUI from the year before, so maybe she shouldn't have even been driving in 2009. And even to this day, it seems the people are still suspicious of Crystal Johns. So put it simply, Tony and her friend go to this party. They're both drunk. They leave. She wants out of the car. The friend wants out of the car. Tony obliges her. Tony takes off in her car, never to be seen again. So the questions, of course, like I do, how I do this, as you've been watching or listening to the live show for a while, and I've been doing this since last summer, picking out a disappearance that has not been featured by Unfound, on Unfound, to kind of analyze it, pick it apart a little bit, at least just going by the general information, and me try to make a prediction about what actually happened, because I like to go on the record on these things, because I think it eventually helps me prove to everybody that I know what the heck I'm talking about. But here's where I would begin. I wouldn't talk to the private investigator, but I'm talking to Tony's family, although I should say that Tony's family, like I said before, when I started this out, it seems like everybody surrounding Tony's disappearance, the police, the private investigator, the family, the friends, everybody, not helpful at all for a variety of reasons. But the questions where I would start, if I were talking to Tony's family, I'd really want to first know what kind of water searches have been done. Maybe this isn't going to surprise any of you at all. You should know the last time she was seen, she really wasn't that far from the Schuylkill River. All right, so that is something to consider. I will come back to that. I'm guessing over the years, given being that Tony's disappearance seems to be fairly well known and that her car is missing, I'm guessing at least one scuba YouTube channel has taken a shot at it and found nothing. But I really want to know how many, when, and where. I'd really need to really understand that very importantly. Because like I will continue to say, the more people and their cars are missing, the more I think they're together. Of course, there are exceptions like Eric Franks. I'd also want to know, how long would it have taken her actually to get home if she went the correct way? And the reason I say that is she was drinking and driving. And there has been speculation that, given that she wasn't familiar with this area where she was, is it possible that she went the wrong direction? I will come back to that. And we also have to remember her phone died an hour later. Well, would it have been possible for her to get home in less than an hour drinking and driving? Could somebody tell me that? At least, that's something I would need to know. Regarding that DUIing, the drinking and driving, had she ever gotten lost when drinking and driving before, and where did she go? Well, I don't care if it was in Camden, Philadelphia, anywhere. If she were drinking and driving, did she ever go the wrong way? And, got lost and had to call somebody? This would also be very interesting to me in doing my analysis. I'd want to know, we know what Crystal Johns had to say about all this, and we know kind of what people at the party had to say about all this. The problem is, of course, nobody at this party, I don't think, knew. It's still a little unclear. They were at this ice nightclub that they just happened to run into this NBA player, and he just invited everybody back to his house or something, like Eddie Murphy did to all those people in Trading Places. Maybe that was it. I get the idea that nobody else at the party knew these two. Didn't know Crystal, didn't know Tony. So what I'm asking is, well, what about the other people who actually did know Tony, who were friends, not her family, but maybe people she worked with, other friends she grown up with, that she was in contact with them on social media, whatever it was, I guess early stages of Facebook or MySpace or whatever else. What would they say about Tony? What was up with this drinking and everything else? I'd really need to know more from them, of course, especially because none of them would be considered suspects. They weren't the last person to see her, but maybe they had experienced her in a setting like that, of course, where she didn't disappear. That would be interesting to me. I think that would be very helpful. For this. Saturday night, Ed, my mom called me and told me I had to change my name. Is this better for you all? Who is this? Is this D now going by a different name, or what do you do? Who is this? Saturday night, Tiger Lily. I don't know who this is. And then also, of course, for Aspen. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you want to do is, that's fine with me, as long as it's not. I let D get away with stitching and doing that because D is D. Okay, that's your kiddo. All right, D, I got it. But I'd also want to know regarding Toni. It does seem like she was going through a lot in her life. And did she ever talk about suicide? Any as they say now in current terms, suicidal ideations. Did she ever talk about that? She obviously had some bad mental stuff going on. There was, of course, she was supposed to be a nurse, but she was drinking. She maybe had a drug addiction. I don't know if it was stuff illegal, but maybe it was opioids or sleeping pills or something like that. All of this is very important in painting a picture of a missing person, because what do I say? Disappearances are about people, not about circumstances. Even though we talk about the circumstances, and that'll point us, this is the location. There's a car. It's this time and everything else. But the reason it's important to know about the people is because people usually go missing due to the demographic that they're in, not because whether they're in a car or out with friends or anything else. This is what I keep saying. Whether I'm sitting in my condo here in Clearwater Beach, Florida, or I'm cruising out in my Mustang like I intend to do after I get this GPS system put in, I intend to go on a very solitary day drive somewhere on some 2-lane back lane roads of Florida, because I've never done that and I have the car to do it with now. But whether I'm doing that or in my condo or I'm at trivia or wherever else, the odds say, no matter where I am, the likelihood of me disappearing for the same reason are all the same. Disappearances are about the people, not the certain. And this is what I continue to mean about circumstances regarding missing people. They fall into the same likelihood of disappearing no matter where they are and no matter what they are doing. This is what I mean. So I think what I'm saying about Toni is we shouldn't be surprised if you would have told me Toni Sharpless went missing. And I don't know anything about, the party. I don't know anything about her friend. But I know that she was drinking and driving. If I know that she was having some mental health issues, and I think this absolutely falls into the idea of how Toni Sharpless would go missing. We don't need to know that she was out late at night, that she went to a party where there was an NBA player there, that she was there with a friend of hers, that the friend had to get out of the car. We don't need to know that to try to understand how the Toni Sharplesses of the world would go missing. This is what I keep saying about this, if you're unclear. So let's now get to the analysis. First, let's just get the private investigator person out of the way. She's crazy to think that this was sex trafficking. But that's what she was trying to sell me back in like 2017, 2018. It's what's said on the Wikipedia site. You can find her talking about this topic many, many places regarding Toni's disappearance. There is no way that Toni Sharpless was sex trafficked, and it should have been obvious from the moment that anybody found out that she was missing. She is not in the demographic. Frankly, she's too old. She's a mother. She's educated. Now, does it help? Does it, is her having an addiction or something? Maybe. But to me, that is greatly over, to this, tampered down, covered up by the fact that she was older. She was a mother. You have to remember something. When it comes to the topic of sex trafficking, there's a reason that those people stick to children and people, prostitutes, homeless women, people like that. Why? Because they can be easily manipulated. That's why. Children can be easily controlled through physical force. Mainly women who are prostitutes, who have addictions and living on the streets and doing whatever else, they can be controlled through mental, manipulation, and maybe some physical manipulation regarding drugs. Whereas when you get women who are older, they're educated, they're living on their own, they have children, whether they're the greatest mothers in the world or not. Frankly, they're just, for sex traffickers who have all these choices, picking an educated woman of her age, it's just too much work. Remember, this is a business for them. This is no different than, picking fruit. You go pick fruit. What do? You get the low-hanging fruit. You don't climb up to the top of the tree when you can get the fruit that's right. This is how sex traffickers think. Is going back to my example from the Gilgo Beach Killer. This is why we don't have any serial killers who specialize in killing college professors, female college professors. Why? Because they live their lives in protected spaces. That's why. They're on school property. They live in an actual house with locked doors. And they're much more likely to be in relationships. I don't care about the sexuality. But reasons like that. That's why. Now, why this private investigator wouldn't understand that, I don't know. It's out there if anybody who wants to see it. The next time, I need to check this again for a second. The next time a 29-year-old nurse gets sex trafficked will be the first time. That's what I'm saying, at least here in the United States. The sex trafficking, and like I said, it's gotten a lot of attention. This private investigator did all sorts of interviews pushing this idea. It is crazy. It is unlikely as unlikely can be, to the point, without being not possible. Is it physically possible? Yes, it doesn't defy any laws of gravity or the speed of light or anything. But the likelihood of it is 0.00001%. It just is. But like I said, this is a perfect example in her disappearance. A lack of understanding of disappearances causes the thinking to violently get out of control. This is kind of like Haydar Abu Shakra, meaning the part 2 is going to be coming out. Same thing. A lack of understanding of why people go missing has allowed in Haydar's all these crazy stories to get out there. Same way with Tony Sharpless. Because people don't know what they're looking at, it allows all these crazy theories and assertions and insights and everything to be spread. And it only makes solving the disappearance more difficult. My analysis is that not enough people were being frank with her family. Because you can see her family out there making a lot of statements that probably aren't not true. There obviously was not anyone around them who could tell them, yeah, that didn't happen. Yeah, it's horrible. She's missing. Her car is missing. It's horrible. But what you're saying here most likely is not true. It's not even close to true. Once again, all this does is allow the wildfires of conspiracy land in Cooksville to spread. And it makes, of course, her friend Crystal Johns, the NBA player, all these people at the party, then attention goes on them for no reason. You get a lot of innocent people who are suspected of maybe killing a woman, and they shouldn't be suspected at all. Rockford says, not unusual to have an after-hours party with people who don't know each other, of course. Really, of course, not my lifestyle my entire life, but yes, sometimes I get crazy. It gets crazy. Toni was in danger on the road for the same reason she got kicked out of the party. Right. So, but you may be saying, well, what about that plate reader, Ed? 2 weeks later, somebody was driving her car around. Something happened. Somebody stole her car, got carjacked. Yeah, that probably did not happen. I learned this through the disappearance right here in Pinellas County of Robert Helfrey. He went missing before I moved here. It was a disappearance. I tried to feature on Unfound. Actually met his mother. Could not get her to do an interview. Actually spoke to his ex-wife. She wanted to do an interview, but wasn't allowed because the mother wouldn't allow it to happen. But I knew a lot about Robert's disappearance. He was also out. He was also drinking and driving, and he never made it home. He and his car went missing. A few weeks after he went missing, guess what? Over in Hillsborough County, which is where Tampa is, allegedly there was a plate reader over there that read his car, saw his car over there. What you eventually found out was that, no, that wasn't it at all. That's how it was documented. But actually, it was some police officer over there who had known about Robert's disappearance and wanted to double check the license plate. That was it. That was it. And in fact, what happened to Robert Halfrey was found a few years ago, drinking and driving, drove into a pond in the middle of a housing development, very much like Esther Westenbarger, and he drowned in his car. And they eventually found him years later. So when you see this and you think, oh, somebody was driving a car. No, probably what happened, it was just some cop running her plate. What was the plate? Oh, I just saw a Pontiac GT Grand Prix. I just have this license plate. Is the same license plate? And so he looks up her license plate. That's all it could have been. So don't get caught up in that. Once again, this is how the sensationalism can take over, the understanding of a disappearance. Could this be a police cover-up? Could she have gotten pulled over and got into a fight with a police officer and they had to cover it up? Police do make people disappear. I keep bringing up, south of here, those two men who were almost certainly murdered by a police officer. One was Hispanic, one was black. Could have happened. It happens. Sounds like Tony would be the type of person to fight. But this comes from a letter that there's every reason to believe that this letter came from somebody who just had a problem with the Camden police. It's anonymous and everything else. This is no different than these ransom notes that are getting sent to TMZ regarding Nancy Guthrie. Once again, telling you everything but what you really want to know, can't prove anything, nothing. And even though the VIN and her phone number wasn't, anybody could get that. Saturday, I just wanted to see who my mama was talking about. It was nice to meet you, sir. And chat. Well, good to see you too, Saturday night, Tiger Lily. So what I would say regarding a police cover-up is there are no facts to dispute that, but the letter that was sent to actually allege this, there's no reason to believe any of it. Zero. Person doesn't give any locations, any other people's names, nothing. It could have been written, being that the person had the VIN, the last of the VIN, the car, and her phone number. It could have been written by the person who sold her the car. I mean, for all we know. A lot of kooks out there. Just that, once again, doesn't seem very likely. Then I realized this was before badge cams and all these things. And certainly police misconduct happens. And certainly if somebody could show me proof that there was maybe some weird police calls that night that kind of go unanswered or something, okay. I haven't seen anything like that. So other than people just wanting to hate the police, I just don't think there's any reason to believe that. Regarding Daniel Imbo and Richard Petrone, I'm inclined to think that they were drinking and driving as well. I will continue to insist I don't think it was foul play there either. And it very well could be they went off in the wrong direction. And it very well could be that Tony went off in this, in the wrong direction as well. Given what happened that night or that early morning at that party, it could be that Tony was just suicidal. Given all of her problems. The problem, everyone thinks, and what I would say to finish this up, being that we're at 11 o'clock and I'm going to run over this by a couple minutes. The problem that goes along with people analyzing this, whether it's the private investigator, the police, the people on Web Sleuths, her family, whoever else, The main problem is this. You're all looking at this too damn logically. Why are you trying to attach logical premises, and suppositions, whatever you want to call it, to a person who obviously was not acting logical? Why would you do that? We've all been around drunk people. I've never been drunk in my life because I'm a goody two shoes. But I've seen my friends, and I have some of the best friends in the world. I've seen them drunk. They don't act logically. So why is everybody sitting back on their couches and reading about Tony's disappearance and trying to attach logic to this? Well, she must have done this. She must have done that. Well, bad, stupid, not smart. The only way to gauge these types of disappearances is to look at people who went missing who are like Toni Sharpless. It's much better if you want to make good predictions and have a 90% success rate like I do. The way you do that is you find disappearances of similar people. And, you find out they went missing. If they were found, well, what exactly happened? And I think that if you do that with Tony's disappearance, it's very easy to see this is just a DUI crash somewhere. Very well could be in the Schuylkill River, but it doesn't have to be. It very well could be that she went off and ended up in the middle of Pennsylvania, depending on how drunk she was. I mean, it has to be pretty bad when they're both drunk and the drunk passenger wants out of the car. If the passenger is sober, that makes all, that does make all the sense in the world. But when a drunk passenger doesn't even want to be in the car because the driver's drunk, the driver is drunk. Toni Sharpless is out there. She is with her car. Very well may be in a body of water, but doesn't have to be. She was not sex trafficked. It was not foul play. She shouldn't have been on the road. Everybody knows this. Everybody should know this. But too many crazy people, too many people who don't know anything about disappearances have clouded this disappearance. Get back to the basics. She was drinking and driving. She wrecked. Start there. That is the only choice. It is the only plausible outcome. And with all of that now out of my brain, I leave all of you. As for Friday, not sure what's going on Friday right now. Not sure. You'll just have to wait. It'll be something. But that's all I have for you tonight. Got through everything on the list. The 2 hours went by so fast. 2 hours and 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever it is. Everybody, thank you for showing up tonight, including Kelly. It was good to see you tonight. Dee, it was fantastic to have your daughter in here tonight. She can use whatever name she wants as long as it's not too risque. And your mother, you approve. And keep your heads on swivels out there. Do not allow yourself to become a victim. Do not end up on my podcast. Charlie, say hi to the kids for me. Your kids, your growing and aging sons for me. And we'll do all of this again next Monday night. Good night.